When I walked into my parents' house that Tuesday evening, I froze. My mother's voice drifted from the dining room, calm and matter of fact. Sophie's kids eat first, and Madison's boys can wait for the crumbs. My sister laughed. Actually laughed. My father didn't even look up from his phone. In the corner of the living room, my 8-year-old Tyler and 6-year-old Lucas sat with empty plates balanced on their knees, trying to act like they weren't starving. Tyler was drawing invisible pictures on his empty plate with his finger. Lucas kept looking toward the kitchen, then back at his lap. That's when something inside me just stopped. I'm Madison Rivers, 32 years old, and I teach second grade at Mountain View Elementary here in suburban Denver. What happened in that dining room didn't come out of nowhere. It was just the first time their hierarchy became so obvious, so loud, that even I couldn't pretend it wasn't happening anymore. The truth is, this pattern started about 4 years ago, right after Tyler was born. I'd married Jake in 2017. He's an electrician, the kind of guy who can fix anything with his hands and sees problems before they explode. We were young, happy, figuring out parenthood with a colicky baby who didn't sleep through the night until he was 8 months old. That's when my mom, Carol, started asking for help. It started innocent enough. "Madison, honey, could you help out a little with groceries this month? Your dad's overtime got cut, just $50 here, $100 there." Frank, my father, has always been practical to the point of coldness. He nodded along, saying it would teach me responsibility and family loyalty. So I helped. What else do you do when your parents ask? But helping became habit. Habit became obligation. And before I understood what was happening, I was sending $400 to $600 every month to keep their household running. When Lucas came along 2 years later, the requests got bigger. Help with rent when Dad's hours got cut again. Emergency dental work. A temporary loan for Sophie's car insurance that somehow became permanent. Sophie. That's my 35-year-old sister who works in marketing and has never missed a meal in her life. She'd always been the golden child, the one my parents bragged about at church and family gatherings. When her daughter Olivia was born just a year before Tyler, you'd have thought it was the second coming. Pictures everywhere. Constant updates about Olivia's advanced development and exceptional intelligence. When her son Noah came along in 2019, same thing. Meanwhile, my kids got the polite acknowledgement treatment. When I'd bring Tyler over as a baby, Mom would hold him like he was made of glass. Not precious glass, just fragile, uncertain glass. She'd spend 20 minutes cooing over Olivia's latest drawing, calling her our little artist and so creative for her age. With Tyler's artwork, it was always "that's nice, sweetheart," and a quick pat on the head before moving on to something else. Jake noticed things I'd trained myself to ignore. You know how it is when you grow up in something. You think it's normal until someone from the outside points it out. He'd ask simple questions that hit like sledgehammers. Do they ever offer to help us? Or, have you noticed how they talk about the kids differently? I'd brush him off every time. They're just busy, I'd say. They're getting older. Mom's always been a little scattered. Dad's never been emotional with anyone. Sophie's kids are just easier somehow. But Jake was right about the kids thing, and deep down I knew it. Christmas mornings were the worst. Olivia and Noah would get elaborate gifts. Bikes, electronics, expensive toys that came in huge boxes. Tyler and Lucas got books and practical clothes. We thought Tyler might like to read more, Mom would say, handing him a $10 picture book while Olivia unwrapped a $200 tablet. And Lucas is growing so fast, he needed new pants. The birthday parties were another thing entirely. Sophie's kids got themed parties with decorations, games, and guest lists that included half their class. My boys got sheet cakes from the grocery store and maybe 3 cousins if we were lucky. When I'd suggest doing something bigger for Tyler's birthday, Mom would get that look. You know the one. The look that says you're being unreasonable and demanding. "Madison," she'd say in that voice she used when she thought I was being silly. Not every child needs a big production. Tyler's more of a quiet type anyway. Quiet type. Like that explained away why my 6-year-old stopped asking for birthday parties altogether. The money requests never stopped. Actually, they evolved. What started as grocery help became rent assistance. What started as temporary became permanent. Always urgent, always perfectly timed with my payday. Always wrapped in guilt about family loyalty and how disappointed Grandma would be if she knew we couldn't help each other out. "Family helps family," Mom would say, her voice getting that shaky quality it got whenever money was involved. "We're not asking for much, sweetheart. Just until we get back on our feet." But 4 years is a long time to be getting back on your feet, especially when you're also funding your other daughter's car insurance and cell phone bill because she's still figuring things out financially. And every time I said yes, I told myself it was temporary. I convinced myself that my generosity would somehow bridge whatever gap existed between my kids and theirs. That maybe if I helped enough, contributed enough, sacrificed enough, my boys would finally get treated like they belonged in this family too. But generosity doesn't fix favoritism. It just funds it. The breaking point came during that Tuesday dinner I mentioned. I'd stopped by after work because Mom said she was making spaghetti for everyone. Sophie's family was visiting from across town, and it would be nice for all the cousins to play together, she said. It sounded lovely. It sounded normal. When I arrived with my boys still in their school clothes, backpacks slung over their shoulders, I could smell the garlic bread baking and hear laughter coming from the dining room. I walked through the front door, expecting normal family chaos. Kids running around, adults talking over each other, the usual Tuesday evening mess that comes with having 4 grandkids under one roof. Instead, I found something that made my teacher instincts kick in immediately. Olivia and Noah were already seated at the main dining table with full plates of spaghetti, talking loudly about their upcoming spring break trip to Disney World. They had the good chairs, the ones with cushions, and their drinks were in the nice glasses, the ones Mom usually saved for company. Tyler and Lucas had been directed to the living room with TV trays, the wobbly kind that tip over if you breathe on them wrong. But here's the thing that really got me. Their TV trays were empty. Not just waiting for food, empty. Completely empty. No plates, no utensils, no napkins. Nothing. "Mom," I said carefully, setting down my purse and trying to keep my voice level. "Why aren't all the kids eating together?" She waved her hand dismissively while spooning more sauce onto Noah's already full plate. "Oh, honey, there's not enough room at the table. You know how it is. Besides, Sophie's kids eat first. They have strict bedtime schedules to keep." She said this like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. Tyler and Lucas can wait for seconds. Seconds. Not even their own first serving. Seconds. I looked around the dining room. The table seats 6 comfortably, 8 if you squeeze. Currently, there were 4 adults and 2 children seated. Plenty of room for 2 more kids. "What about plates for the boys?" I asked. Sophie looked up from cutting Noah's spaghetti. Noah, who's 7 years old and perfectly capable of cutting his own food. "Oh, we weren't sure if you were staying for dinner," she said with that smile she uses when she's being politely dismissive. "Mom only made enough for the scheduled guests." Scheduled guests. My children were not scheduled guests in their own grandparents' house. Tyler appeared at my elbow, tugging gently on my sleeve. "Mom, I'm really hungry," he whispered. "We didn't have snacks at aftercare today." Lucas bounced up from his empty TV tray. "Can I have some bread? It smells really good." "In a minute, sweetie," Mom called from the kitchen without looking at him. Let Olivia and Noah finish first. You know how cranky Noah gets when his routine is disrupted. That's when Dad chimed in with the comment that snapped something inside me. He looked up from his phone for the first time since I'd arrived and said, matter-of-factly, "The boys need to understand how things work around here. Sophie's kids come first. That's just reality. They need to learn their place. Their place." I looked at Tyler, who had gone very still beside me. He wasn't confused anymore. He wasn't asking questions. He was just accepting it. The way kids do when adults tell them something often enough. Lucas had stopped bouncing and was staring at his empty TV tray like it might magically produce food if he concentrated hard enough. And then I heard it. The conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. "It's better they get used to it now anyway," Sophie said quietly to Mom, thinking I was still in the hallway. "They were born to live off what's left. Born to live off what's left." Mom nodded. "Better they learn early. Madison spoils them too much as it is." I moved before I even realized I was doing it. Walked straight into that dining room with its warm light and full plates and said to my boys, "Get your backpacks. We're going home." "But Madison," Mom started, suddenly standing up. "They haven't eaten yet." "Neither have Sophie's kids, apparently," I said, helping Lucas gather his things, "since they're still working on their first plates while mine wait for Crumbs." "You're being dramatic," Sophie said, not looking up from her plate. "It's just dinner logistics." "No," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "It's just priorities. And clearly my children aren't yours." Tyler looked up at me with those big brown eyes. Jake's eyes. "Are we in trouble, Mom?" "No, baby. We're just leaving." The walk to the car felt like it took forever. Tyler held my hand, which he hadn't done in months. He's 8 and thinks he's too old for hand-holding now. Lucas carried his backpack and kept looking back at the house like he was trying to figure out what he'd done wrong. Neither of them asked why we left. Neither of them complained about being hungry. They just accepted it. And that acceptance broke something in me that I didn't even know was still whole. The car ride home was quiet except for Lucas's stomach growling and Tyler asking once, very softly, if Grandma was mad at them. "No," I said, catching his eyes in the rearview mirror. "Grandma's not mad at you. Grandma's just confused about some things." But inside I was planning. You know that feeling when you're a teacher and you finally see a pattern in a kid's behavior that explains everything? When all the little pieces suddenly click into place and you realize what you're really dealing with? That's what happened during that 15-minute drive home. Jake was waiting on the front porch when we pulled into our driveway. One look at our faces, Tyler's confusion, Lucas's disappointment, my barely controlled anger, told him everything he needed to know. He didn't ask what happened right away. Instead, he helped the boys find their homework, got them settled with actual dinner, leftover pizza and apple slices, and put on a nature documentary that Lucas loves. Only when they were busy in their own little worlds did Jake come back to the kitchen, lean against the counter, and wait for me to speak. I didn't know where to start, so I started with the words that hurt the most. "My mother said Sophie's kids eat first," I whispered, "and my boys should wait for Crumbs." The muscle in Jake's jaw shifted, but he stayed still. And Sophie laughed. She said they were born to live off what's left. Jake breathed out slowly, like he'd been holding his breath for years waiting for this moment. "They weren't joking," I continued. "They meant every word." "Sit," he said softly. I sat. "Madison," he began, "you've been supporting that entire household for 4 years now. Bills, repairs, emergencies, all of it. And you've never asked what any of that has cost you. Not in money, in dignity. I wanted to defend them the same way I had for years. Tell Jake he was exaggerating, that they were just having an off day, that family is complicated. But nothing came out because the truth had already been sitting in the back of my throat since the moment Tyler looked at me with those sad, understanding eyes. They don't see our sons as family, Jake said quietly. They see them as complications, and they see you as the solution they can drain without ever being grateful. I didn't argue. I couldn't. That silence between us wasn't defeat. It was clarity. "What do you want to do?" he asked. I stood up, walked to the drawer where we kept important papers, and pulled out my laptop and a clean legal pad. I'd bought the pad months ago for lesson planning. It had stayed blank until that night. "I want to see exactly what we're dealing with," I said. We sat at our kitchen table, the one where my boys eat their fill every night, where they don't wait for permission to take seconds. And I opened my banking app, the app I'd been avoiding looking at too closely for months. First, I drew 4 columns on the legal pad: monthly support, emergency help, co-signed bills, holiday money. Then I started scrolling, page after page of transfers tagged with messages like, "Just until Dad's back on his feet," and "Family helps family and temporary assistance." Under monthly support, I wrote it all down. $400 every month for their rent. $150 for utilities during winter. $100 for groceries during tight weeks that somehow happen 3 times a month. "Holy shit," Jake whispered, looking over my shoulder. Then he glanced toward the living room where the boys were watching TV and lowered his voice. "Sorry. But Madison, that's $650 a month. Every month. Emergency help was worse. Car repairs for Dad, $800. Sophie's car insurance when she forgot to pay, $300. Dental work for Mom, $1,200. New tires for Sophie, $600. A temporary loan for Sophie's security deposit, $1,500. This temporary loan," Jake said, pointing to the screen. "When was this?" I checked the date. 8 months ago. Has she paid any of it back? We both knew the answer. Co-signed bills was the category that made my stomach turn. Sophie's cell phone plan, $120 monthly. Dad's credit card for emergencies only. Minimum payments of $75 monthly. Mom's medical payment plan, $200 monthly. The holiday money column was almost funny if it wasn't so pathetic. Money I'd given my parents for the grandkids' Christmas gifts that somehow resulted in Olivia and Noah getting tablets while Tyler and Lucas got clearance books. By midnight, we had numbers. 4 years of support. The total was $47,000. Jake whistled low. "Madison, that's more than you make in a year." He was right. My teaching salary is $52,000. I'd been giving away nearly my entire income to fund a system that treated my children like second-class family members. "You know what the worst part is?" I said, staring at the numbers. I thought I was buying their love. I thought if I just helped enough, contributed enough, they'd finally see my boys as worthy grandchildren. Instead, you were paying them to keep the hierarchy in place. That's exactly what I'd been doing. Financing my own kids' humiliation. I made a new list, not an angry list, a practical one. First, cancel all automatic transfers to parents' accounts. Second, remove myself as emergency contact for their utilities. Third, cancel the family cell phone plan that covered Sophie. Fourth, stop the monthly grocery deliveries I'd set up. Fifth, remove co-signer status from Dad's credit card. Sixth, send a simple text explaining that financial support was ending. "You sure about this?" Jake asked. "Once you do this, there's no going back." "Good," I said. "I don't want to go back to watching my children wait for scraps." I started with the banking app. Cancel automatic transfer to Carol Brooks, confirmed. Cancel automatic transfer to Frank Brooks, confirmed. Each click felt like taking a breath I'd been holding for years. Next, the utility companies. I need to remove myself as the emergency contact and payment backup for account number. The customer service rep was helpful, probably dealt with this kind of thing all the time. The cell phone cancellation was trickier. Sophie's line had been added to my family plan 2 years ago during one of her temporary financial setbacks. Removing it would cut off her service immediately. I hesitated for maybe 30 seconds. Then I remembered Lucas's empty TV tray and clicked confirm. The grocery delivery service was easy. Just a quick call to cancel the weekly order I'd been sending to my parents' address. The hardest part was Dad's credit card. I'd co-signed when he lost his job 3 years ago, thinking it would help them through a rough patch. The card had a $8,000 balance. Removing myself as co-signer wouldn't affect the debt, but it would stop them from running it up higher on my credit. By 2 a.m., I was done. Every automatic payment stopped. Every safety net removed. Every financial lifeline cut. The house was silent. Even Jake had gone quiet, just sitting beside me as I closed my laptop. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Awake," I said. For the first time in years, I feel completely awake. There was no satisfaction yet, just the realization that my silence in that dining room, walking out without arguing, without pleading, without explaining, had been the first act of power I'd taken in years. And what I'd just done on my laptop was power solidified. The text I sent was simple. "Hi, Mom and Dad. After tonight's dinner situation, Jake and I have decided our family's financial contributions will be ending immediately. Tyler and Lucas deserve better than waiting for crumbs, and I won't fund a system that treats them as less than. All automatic payments have been stopped. Sophie will need to handle her own bills going forward. This isn't negotiable. Madison." I sent it at 2:17 a.m. and turned off my phone. Jake reached over and squeezed my hand. "The boys are lucky to have you. They shouldn't have needed protecting from their own grandparents," I said. "No, they shouldn't. But they did, and you did it." I looked toward the living room where Tyler and Lucas were finally sleeping, curled up together on the couch where they'd fallen asleep watching documentaries about dolphins. They looked peaceful, content, like children should look. Tomorrow, the calls would start. The guilt trips, the anger, the accusations. But tonight, for the first time in 4 years, my family's bank account belonged entirely to my family. Every bill they expected me to pay, every emergency they assumed I'd cover, every monthly transfer they'd built into their budget, all of it would hit them like a winter storm they never saw coming. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed protection. For my sons, for my marriage, for the part of me that had forgotten what it felt like to put my own children first. The phone calls started exactly 36 hours later. I was grading second-grade math worksheets at my kitchen table when Dad's name lit up my screen. Frank Brooks, the man who rarely called unless a payment was late or a new crisis had emerged. "Madison," he said without any greeting. "There seems to be some kind of problem with this month's transfer." "There's no problem," I said calmly, not looking up from Joey Martinez's addition problems. I canceled it. The pause was sharp enough to cut glass. "You canceled it? Without warning?" "I warned you Tuesday night," I replied. "You just weren't listening. You told my children they come after Sophie's kids in this family. I heard you loud and clear. That was just about dinner arrangements, Madison. You're being ridiculous." "Am I?" "Then explain to me why my 6-year-old had to sit in a corner with an empty plate while his 7-year-old cousin got seconds." Before he could answer, call waiting buzzed. Sophie's name flashed on the screen. "Dad, I need to take this other call," I said. "But to be clear, the support is over. Permanently." I switched lines. "Hi, Sophie. Madison, what the hell did you do?" Her voice was high, panicked. "My car insurance got rejected this morning. They said the cosigner blocked future payments. You know Ryan and I are tight this month with Noah's baseball fees and Olivia's dance classes. You'll have to figure it out," I said, still focused on my grading. The way you expected my boys to figure out dinner Tuesday night. That was completely different. We were just being practical about space and timing. You're right. It was different. My boys were hungry, and your kids were fed. Now you're financially hungry, and my kids will be fed. Funny how priorities work. The real meltdown came 20 minutes later when Mom called through FaceTime. Her face appeared on my screen, already streaked with tears, hair uncombed, looking like she hadn't slept. "Sweetheart," she began, voice shaking. "Your father and I need to talk to you about this misunderstanding. The bills are piling up faster than we expected without your help. We're in a really difficult situation here." "Are you?" I asked, setting down my red pen. "That's interesting, because Tuesday night you seemed to think difficult situations were character building. Remember? You said my boys needed to learn their place. That's not what I meant, and you know it." "Then what did you mean, Mom?" "When you said Sophie's kids eat first, and mine wait for crumbs? What exactly did you mean by that?" Her tears turned defensive. "We were just trying to manage dinner logistics. You're punishing us for trying to keep things organized." "No. I'm protecting my children from a system that ranks them as less important than their cousins. A system I've been accidentally funding for 4 years. Madison, please. We could lose our apartment. Your father's Social Security isn't enough, and my part-time job barely covers groceries." "Then maybe Sophie can help," I suggested. "You know, the daughter whose children are so much more important than mine that they get to eat while mine starve. Sophie has her own expenses. So do I. Like making sure my sons know they're worth more than table scraps." The guilt trips intensified over the next 3 weeks. Group texts about family loyalty that I didn't respond to. Calls about how disappointed great-grandma Helen would be if she knew we couldn't help each other. Sophie even tried weaponizing the kids, having Olivia call to ask why Tyler and Lucas couldn't come to family dinners anymore. But something beautiful happened during those same 3 weeks. My boys started expanding. Tyler, who used to avoid the main seat at our dinner table because it seemed too grown up, started sitting there naturally. He'd tell us about his day, ask for seconds without apologizing, laugh at Jake's terrible dad jokes without checking to see if it was okay to laugh that loud. Lucas began talking more. Stories about school, questions about everything, silly 6-year-old observations that filled our house with noise and joy. He stopped that habit he'd developed of eating really fast, like someone might take his food away if he wasn't quick enough. One evening, about a month after I'd cut off the money, I was making dinner when Tyler appeared at my elbow. "Mom," he said quietly, "can I ask you something?" "Always, buddy. Are we poor now? Because we don't help Grandma and Grandpa anymore?" I knelt down to his eye level. "No, Tyler. We're not poor. We're actually doing better now because we're taking care of our own family first. But Grandma said on the phone that we were being selfish." My heart stopped. "When did Grandma call you?" "Yesterday when you were at school. She said you were being mean and that families are supposed to help each other." That was the last straw. I called my mother that night after the boys were in bed. "If you ever call my children again to guilt them about adult decisions, you will never see them again," I said without preamble. "Do you understand me?" "Madison, I was just trying to help them understand." "Understand what?" "That their mother is wrong for protecting them? That they should feel guilty for eating dinner at their own table? Don't you dare put this on my children." She hung up on me. Good. 6 weeks later, Mom called to tell me they were moving to a smaller apartment across town. Sophie had picked up weekend shifts at Target to cover her car insurance. Dad was eating generic cereal instead of the name brand stuff and had canceled his cable. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not guilt, just the quiet certainty that comes from making the right decision. Meanwhile, Tyler won second place in the school district's art contest with a painting of our family at dinner. All 4 of us around our table, plates full, everyone smiling. Lucas made friends with 3 kids on his soccer team, and had his first sleepover last weekend. Jake and I opened college savings accounts for both boys with the money we'd been sending to my family. Real accounts with actual contributions. Not we'll figure it out later promises. Last week, Tyler asked if we could host Thanksgiving at our house this year. Just us, he said. Like a real family dinner where everyone gets to eat together from the start. We are a real family, I told him. We always were. I just forgot to act like it for a while. My mother texted yesterday asking if we'd come to our senses about Christmas. The answer is no. Not because I want to hurt anyone, but because I won't risk my children learning to accept less than they deserve ever again. Some people think cutting off family is harsh, but I didn't cut off family. I stopped paying people to treat my kids like second-class citizens. There's a big difference. My boys don't sit in corners anymore. They don't wait for crumbs. They take their seats at the table and eat their fill, because that's what children should do. That's what I should have ensured from day one. The day my family told my children they were meant for crumbs was the day I stopped feeding a system that starved them. Some boundaries break families apart. Mine just revealed what was already broken. And you know what? We're all better for it.